Folks, let's be honest here for a minute and say that these last 2 years were rough. A pandemic, supply chain issues, event cancellations in 2020, and that's just to name a few. In these rather uncertain times, it's important to feel like we still have control over our lives. The best way to do that is with coping mechanisms. I'm Steven from Tostemac, and for the last autism video of 2021, we'll dive into what a coping mechanism is, how it works, and what to do if a coping mechanism is disrupted or needs to change. A coping mechanism is a conscious or unconscious strategy designed to decrease anxiety and tension in rather stressful situations. They assist us with dealing with stress along with other unpleasant emotions to help us better focus on the task at hand.
You know, Steven, now that you mention this, it sounds a lot like autism and stimming.
Ah, good observation there. That's actually a good example of a coping mechanism, but we'll get to more of those examples later. Right now, we need to talk about why a coping mechanism is so important. In an ideal world, there would be no need for coping mechanisms because everyone would be happy. There would be no troubles or strife, and everything would be just the way people want. But we don't live in an ideal world. In the world we do live in, there are a myriad of problems, from a plan being altered or failing a test at school, to much bigger ones, like a favorite place closing down, losing your job, or even losing a loved one. With so many things that can go wrong in this world, and things beyond our control, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed, powerless, unable to change a thing. However, when we do find something within our power to do, it gives us a sense of empowerment, a spark, if you will. If it's used properly, that little spark can make a huge difference, and that is where our coping mechanisms come in. A coping mechanism can come in many forms and will most likely vary from person to person. We can talk about some of the basics in this video though, starting with one of the biggest ones, routines and schedules. You've probably heard me say this a dozen times before, and you'll probably hear me say it a dozen times more. But autistic people in general are a real stickler for schedules, as we know what to expect without any surprises. You might not even be aware of it, but when you go through the pattern of waking up, going to your destination, having your 3 meals, going to sleep, and having a little fun in between while you can, guess what? You are using a coping mechanism in order to keep control of your life. It is this very pattern that aids us in keeping our emotions and stress levels balanced.
But not all coping mechanisms have to be that big, right? There are those on a smaller scale that focus more on self-care.
Correct. Some of those examples can include concentrating on a breathing exercise, going out for a more physical exercise, writing in a journal, reading a book, listening to music, playing a video game, whatever makes you happy. As long as they work for you in a positive manner to help better focus and adapt, then it's fair game. Mind you though, there will be points in your life where a coping mechanism may have to change. Sometimes it could be due to factors beyond our control, like a business we really like closing its doors for good. Other times it could be that our old coping mechanism that we can control isn't really working anymore, and a new one needs to be put into place. Much like autism and stimming, if the coping mechanism in question does not make the situation better, is potentially harmful to oneself and others, can prevent someone from interacting with other people, or if they prevent a person from focusing on a task, then you'll want to change it. In terms of how to go about it, here are some tips. First, you'll want to acknowledge that the old routine isn't going to work anymore. After all, the first step to solving a problem is to identify it. Next, try to keep it as short and simple as possible. The more complexities you add to a plan, the more likely it is to fail. While you are making this change, be sure to talk with friends and families about this. Not only is it good to bounce ideas around with other people, it's reassuring to know that you are not alone in all of this. Finally, once you have a plan set, do your best to follow through with it until it becomes as natural as breathing. You may have to tweak some small details here and there, but just keep going. You'll get it. So there you have it, the basic ins and outs on what a coping mechanism is, how it works, and what to do if you need to change it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to share your experience with coping mechanisms, let us know in the comments section below. On that note, it's time to end the video. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you enjoy what you see, consider subscribing to Tostemac to stay up to date in our latest videos. Also, stay tuned for next Saturday as Thomas and I talk about how 2021 went for us and what possible plans we have for 2022. Until the next video, see you later.